Welcome back to another episode. Welcome back to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I'm joined by a very, very special guest. The captain of the national champion UMass Minutemen, Jake Gaudet, joins the show once again. Jake, welcome back to the podcast, and how's everything going?
Things are good. Things are good. Thanks for having me. Honored to be back.
No problem. Thank you so much for coming back for the 1-year anniversary special. Is it crazy that it's been a year since this podcast has started and since I asked you to come on?
Yeah. It's hard to believe kind of all the things that have happened in the last year, and that we even got to have a season in, and kind of to have the success that we did too.
Now, how does it feel to be a national champion, and has that feeling fully sunk into yourself yet? Because it's been about a month, I feel like, since the season ended.
Yeah, not it hasn't set in fully, and I don't know if it really ever will. It's such a surreal feeling that yeah, I mean, it was just such an exciting way to kind of finish out a career and to kind of finish out a season with a great group of guys at UMass. And yeah, I mean, I'm still in disbelief a little bit, I think.
Now, you signed a contract with the Cleveland Monsters in the AHL. I know you played a few games with that organization. What was that experience like playing pro hockey for a few games?
It was awesome. I was there for a month, so I ended up playing close to 9 games. And I mean, it was really cool. It was awesome to kind of get my feet wet and get a little bit of pro experience in a bit of a month. And it was cool this year, just the way things worked out with COVID, that, you could win a championship and play as long as we did till, mid-April, and then still have the opportunity to kind of jump in and get some games. But I really enjoyed the experience. Cleveland's kind of a great city for an AHL team, and really good group of guys. They had a lot of college guys that I hung out with a lot, and I like the coach and kind of the systems. And yeah, I signed a contract for next year too, so I'm really excited to get back there and kind of get a full season under my belt.
Yeah, you get to play with my guy, Wyatt Newpower. What's he like as a teammate? Because he's such a great defenseman.
He's good. He's good. I remember playing against him in Hockey East, and it's more fun to play on his team. He's also a very strong golfer too, so we got outplayed a few rounds together. He's a great guy.
That's awesome. And how is pro hockey different from college hockey from your experience?
Yeah, I think it's obviously different system-wise. UMass, we're very strict in kind of the systems that we play, and in college it's less so. So that was definitely an adjustment. I would say maybe the top end speed guys are a little bit faster. Guys are definitely stronger in the corners. That's something I noticed. Offensively, it's, you get pinned up along the boards a lot more easily. It's more important to kind of keep pucks moving. And then obviously fighting's a little bit different, which was kind of fun to experience. But overall, yeah, I didn't think the transition was less than I expected. But at the same time, it's definitely a different game. You can kind of see immediately what the differences are like.
You dropped the mitts already in the AHL?
No, I
Wow.
haven't. But I was line mates with Brett Gallant, a bit of an AHL legend. So he was fun to play with. Obviously, a little bit of protection out there, but he's such an unbelievable teammate. And I have a ton of respect for guys that kind of go out there and fight like they do and fill that role. It's something you don't experience in college, but to get there and see it in person, it's something you have a lot of respect for. And you're very glad he's on our team, not on the other one.
Yeah, a lot of people have been discussing should they allow fighting in college hockey. Do you think they should allow fighting in college hockey? I think it would add a different element to the game. And some people say it might be even safer to add fighting to college hockey.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing to kind of to ponder. Obviously, I think insurance wise and stuff like that, it's that would be the downside. But yeah, there's a lot less running around in pro. If you're running around trying to kill somebody, or you're hitting people, you're kind of playing, almost like overspeed. You're kind of out of control, right? There's no fighting to stop that. Whereas in pro, there's a lot, there's ways to kind of handle that within the team, as opposed to the refs and stuff like that. So it's an interesting problem. I don't have an answer, but I'm sure college hockey would be a little more interesting with fighting involved.
Who do you think would be the best fighter on UMass?
Sorry,
Who do you think would be the best fighter on UMass?
on UMass? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure Colin Felix would chuck him. Colby Vergara too. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I know if both of those guys had some experience in juniors, but that'd be a fun thing to kind of find out.
Definitely. Well, another thing that happened when after you guys won the national championship was your assistant coach, Ben Barr, was hired as the head coach for Maine hockey. What was your reaction to that news, and how do you think he's going to do as the head coach?
I think he'd be a great coach. I'm really excited. Benny's helped me a ton, almost more than anybody, I think, while I've been at UMass, and I have a ton of respect for his knowledge of the game and just the kind of the way he handles himself. I thought we had a great relationship together. We do a ton of one-on-one work on the ice. He was always happy to jump out there. And I think he'll make a great head coach, just the way he's contributed to the program at UMass and the way he has a coaching style and establishes a relationship with players. And, he's had an established track record of success everywhere he's went. He's lost or missed out on national championships, obviously at Union and at Providence a year before he left or a year after he left. And, in my mind, I have no doubt that that'll go to Maine, and within a few years, they'll be a successful program.
Now, besides all that news, what has your team been doing to celebrate the national championship win? I know it's been a little bit different because of COVID, but I saw the video of the bus heading back to Mullen Center, and like you guys opened up the windows and you're high fiving all the fans. That looked pretty cool.
Yeah, we won. Well, I vividly remember it too. I didn't really appreciate it at the time, but with like 3 minutes left in that final game, Carby brought us all in. It was like, like soak this in because it's the last time we'll kind of all be a team together. And we had a ton of fun that like 3 or 4 days after we won, kind of just celebrating in Amherst and seeing that parade was awesome, just to kind of have the support of the community and the fans. But it was almost sad too. A lot of us didn't realize how quickly we get separated as a team. Carson Gusevich left, I left on the same day, and then guys went home. So by the time I came back after the AHL season ended, everyone had left and gone home. So in some ways it was a ton of fun to celebrate, but we all didn't really appreciate how quickly it would kind of come to an end. So it was kind of two ends of the same stick, right? It was so exciting and so happy and celebrating it and kind of enjoying that moment. But a lot of guys, we hadn't been home since August. So for a lot of guys, we were pretty excited to get to go home and spend time with their families.
Yeah, and another video I saw was you guys were singing Party Rock Anthem on the bus. Is there a story behind that? Because I thought that was the best video from the night.
Yeah, no story behind that. We just we had the speaker obviously on the bus. We were pretty excited to go celebrate and kind of live it up. I remember I had a press conference, and it was late, like it was dragging on and on and on. We just wanted to get out of there, and I could hear the boys in the hallway walking out with the speaker going. It was "We Are the Champions," just singing like idiots. So I remember that too. But that whole night was a ton of fun. Kind of Pittsburgh's a really fun city, especially a sports city. It's something I didn't really appreciate till you were there, but. They were very generous to kind of host us at a couple of different places to celebrate in the hotel and a couple of different bars down on, I want to say it's Carson Street. Yeah, Carson Street.
Now, last time you were on the podcast, you were telling me how different the 2019 team was versus the other teams you were a part of in the past. What made this team different versus the 2019 team that made the Frozen Four?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think just all around, I thought we were a deeper team. We were kind of built for the playoffs in a sense where, we had four lines that were pretty hard to play against, could chip in offensively and played really well within a structured system. I thought that was kind of the recipe for success. And similar to that 2019 team, I thought we had a great blue line. All the defensemen were really solid, and that kind of drives, our team as a whole. And our defense are playing well, that makes our team really successful. And when they're not, we tend to struggle. So I thought, really good decor and kind of, four lines of forwards that play well within a system and can forecheck and make it difficult on the other teams.
Now, I want to start off talking about the regular season and working all the way up to winning the national championship. So, your team was consistently ranked one of the top 25 teams in the country throughout the regular season. What did your team do to maintain that success, especially in January to the national championship win? Because I don't think your team lost a game in regulation during that time span.
Yeah. Looking back, it's kind of crazy to see the record, I guess, in January and moving forward. It didn't always feel that way, and kind of the way we're coached, it doesn't feel that way at all, right? It's always, one game at a time, making sure we're playing the way we can and at the best of our ability. And when it's not the case, as it usually is, you can always play a better game than the one you do. things can be pretty intense trying to improve and affect different areas of the game. But I think as a young team, as you know, we talked about last year in the podcast, we had a lot of freshmen come in with a lot of opportunity to be big time players. You look at a guy like Bollinger, you look at a guy like Lopina, and both those guys were great. You know, Garrett Wade obviously had a great year. And without those guys stepping in and kind of filling holes in the lineup and making a big difference, I don't think we would have been as strong as we were. But I think as they got more and more used to the system and realized how, as a team, we could be successful, you could kind of see us take off and kind of realize our identity. And I think that's a huge part of the success we had in the second half of the year.
And does your team feel any pressure of having that top 10 ranking? And how do you deal with all the outside noise that comes with that ranking?
Yeah, not really, especially not this year. I didn't feel as much pressure. You know, in 2019 when there's fans and there's kind of the hype and all that going on, it was a little bit different. I think this year, you know, with fans removed, there's kind of less distractions, I think. And being through that or going through that process before, you almost realize that the top 10 ranking, it's a little bit meaningless. It's more about kind of, you know, making it happen in the playoffs and making it happen in the tournament, which we did this year. So I think it wasn't overly difficult. Um, you know, the freshmen at times we had to make sure that we were focused on the next game and kind of avoiding those distractions. But for the guys that have been there before, it almost we'd kind of been through that process before and knew what we needed to do to be successful in the playoffs, I thought.
Yeah, and how'd you deal with not playing in front of any fans, at least during the regular season? Because Mullins Center is the biggest arena in Hockey East, if I'm not mistaken. So it felt really empty when there's no crowd there at all.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, you know, at first we were just excited to play. So it was exciting just to kind of have the season. But I remember times in kind of, you know, December, especially like we missed Christmas, we didn't get to go home. So there's games kind of around that stretch that were hard to get excited for. And that college hockey style game, like, you know, you can kind of get away with it, I think, in pros a little bit when you play so many games. College hockey only have, you know, 2 games a weekend or sometimes even less. So you know, you have to be pretty jacked up to play. And I thought at times it was difficult, but our coaches were great this year when things were hard and you could tell guys were getting tired. We did a pretty good job of making sure that we were managing energy levels and, you know, keeping practices at times fun, which, you know, isn't always the case, right? But adding in some games to keep guys excited to come to the rink and, you know, making sure we are finding ways to spend time together, even though, you know, the COVID restrictions were a little difficult to deal with at times.
Yeah, and you also had to deal with a lot of schedule changes throughout the regular season, especially in Hockey East, because you guys didn't even know who you were going to play until the Tuesday before the weekend. How'd you like deal with all those postponements and changes to your schedule, and what was the key for maintaining flexibility for this season?
Yeah, it was different for sure. Like I think you know, you look at a normal year, you look at the schedule throughout the year and where you know the big games are and stuff like that. And this year wasn't the case at all, right? It could be, you know, you could go from playing a bottom standing team to playing Boston College, and you could find out in a couple days in advance, right? So it was different. Um, but I think just the way our team's built, we do a lot of mental strength training, a lot of kind of, you know, imagery and just being able to deal with adversity. And I thought that was kind of just an extra thing that got added in. And we always try and focus on ourselves and play the best game that we can. And, you know, coach says it doesn't matter who we're playing. But I think that kind of helped us going every weekend, just focusing on that principle and not really on the opponent.
And something else that was introduced to college hockey this year was 3-3 overtime. What was that like for yourself to have more space on the ice and having more offensive opportunities during those overtime situations?
Yeah, 3-on-3 is a ton of fun. That's something we actually practice a lot, just to get ready for, making sure we knew what we were going to do out there and kind of having a strategy and some systems and goals in place. But it's a ton of fun. Like I think it's a great idea, and I mean, you watch it; it's so much fun to watch, especially in college, and then even in the pro level. Like guys are so exciting. It kind of gives those high level skill guys more area to make a big impact on the game.
Yeah, and it also eliminates ties. And I don't know about yourself, but I absolutely hated ties, especially in college hockey. It always made me upset. So I'm glad they got rid of that part of the overtime part as well.
Yeah, yeah. Ties are a bit like a participation medal. No one really
Mhm.
wants them.
How cool would it have been to have 3-3 overtime with Makar and Ferraro and Leonard? I feel like that would have been sick to watch those guys in those overtime situations.
Yeah, they would have been flying around. I can't even imagine Kale. Like that guy found a breakaway like every game, 5-on-5, 3-on-3 would have been a whole different animal.
Now, last time you were on the podcast, we talked about being the captain and the leadership that you want to bring to your team. And you told me how you wanted to just be a good example for the younger guys on the team. Looking back on it now, how would you evaluate your leadership skills this past season?
Yeah, I think we had a really great group of guys, so it's always easy to lead people that are leaders themselves, and it really wasn't a very difficult job. I think the hardest part was making sure that we were finding ways to be together as a team and kind of create that sense of togetherness without with all the COVID restrictions. And at times we're in different locker rooms, we're doing different lifts, we're not all on the ice at the same time. So I think that was probably the more difficult thing to deal with. But as a whole, obviously our team was full of a great group of guys, and they were very easy to lead. There's guys that were respectful, they listened, and there was no real disciplinary issues you had to deal with. It was more just kind of making sure that that as a team we were focused on the same things and understood what we needed to do to be successful.
And also mentally, because I know at UMass, like the first semester, there was no one on campus. So it was kind of like a ghost town in Amherst. How'd you like try to help the young guys through that?
Yeah, it was different for sure. Obviously, some of the other athletic teams were around, but we kind of just hung out together. A lot of the hockey guys are in the dorms as freshmen, so they were able to see each other, which was great. But we did some other things. We had bonfires outside in the backyard where we were able to kind of hang out with some fresh air, and it wasn't deemed a high risk. Figuring out ways to play cards or hang out and kind of just spend time together. I think in a way it was difficult because there was no other people there, but at the same time it forced us to spend time together. And I thought as a team, we were really close this year.
Now, in the Hockey East Championship game, you played UMass Lowell. Just talk about that game overall and also talk about the goal you scored during that game because that was kind of a funny bounce it took and you found a way to put it in the back of the net.
Yeah. Yeah, that goal was pretty exciting. It wasn't, obviously an end-to-end kind of highlight reel goal, but just to have one in the championship game. I remember just going through this year at times, it was hard to kind of find that sense of purpose and direction when there's no fans. It was a little bit difficult at times, but I think once we got to the playoffs, you could really feel that. And I remember just the seniors walking into that game, you just almost had the feeling, there's no way that we're going to let our team loose. Like this is kind of our chance to go out there and win something and kind of create UMass history. And I remember just being so motivated that game to go out there and kind of leave it all out there. And for the seniors, we weren't really sure what our last game was going to be, so we made it a point to leave it all out there and kind of work as hard as we could and make sure that when we had our last game, whatever that would be, that we'd be happy and we wouldn't have any regrets. And I thought that was a major focus for us and kind of a motivator.
Yeah, in that game specifically, what really impressed me was the defensive performance that your team had because UMass Lowell, especially in the third period, had a lot of chances to score goals, and your goaltender, Philip Lindbergh, played fantastic, and defensively, your team played very well as well. How did you guys try to deal with all the offensive chances that Lowell had, especially in the third period?
Yeah, I always thought we match up pretty well, I think, against Lowell, just because we're both very, defensive minded, kind of physical teams. But yeah, obviously Fila was awesome. Like he's an unbelievable goalie, and so is Murr. And it's almost wild that Fila he elevated that much more just to kind of lock in his starting job. Um, but yeah, I thought our team did a great job defensively, kind of limiting the chances that Lowell got, and you just kind of had the feeling that it was like it was just going to happen. Like once we got that first goal, it almost felt like it was fate, just in some way. It sounds crazy to say, but yeah, like just the way our team was structured, once we kind of had a lead, it was very hard to give that up.
And what emotions were you feeling lifting up that trophy and knowing that that was your final game at Mullen Center? Because that was the coolest part about this year's Hockey East tournament was it was hosted by the home rink. So I thought that was cool because usually it's at the Garden.
Yeah, it was really cool. You like, yeah, like you said, obviously we all knew it was going to be our last game there, and it was pretty motivating to go out there and to leave it with the trophy. And it's kind of a crazy playoffs, right? We were able to host as the 3 seed. We didn't have to run into Boston College, we didn't have to run into Boston University. Um, So it was kind of strange in that sense. But I was actually recruited a little bit by Lowell too, so it was motivating to kind of get to play them and kind of to end up on top in our senior year.
And another thing I noticed about that game was the music was going on and on during all the award ceremonies. I don't know if you noticed that, but I thought that was pretty funny. It was just like even like the Wold players when they were getting the awards, it was still playing the same song over and over again. I just thought that was funny.
Yeah, I don't know if I even noticed that. We were all kind of just tunnel vision, but yeah, it was pretty special. Obviously, to get to kind of go over there with all the seniors and lift up the trophy and carry it back. It was so exciting to win. I think as a team, that was one of the first times we've had that feeling to kind of win a championship. And I think that motivated us and kind of set us on the right path for the tournament.
And what was the mindset heading into the national tournament this year?
Yeah, I think we knew as a team what it took to kind of get to the national championship the year before, and kind of the brand of hockey that's involved. And I think for a lot of us being there before, it was comforting to kind of have that experience. At the worst, we were going to go out there and we were going to lose again, right? Like you get to the tournament, it's pretty cool. Um, but the worst thing that can happen is you get to that final stage and you lose. And at the very least, we were confident that we could get back to that stage, and we were confident we could get back to the Frozen Four. When we got to our regional, we were pretty excited, and we thought if we played our game the right way, we'd be successful. And then we kind of took it game by game. And it's such a cool time of year, right? There's not many teams playing. A lot of college hockey teams are done and they're, on vacation. They're kind of enjoying the off season. So just to get to play is a privilege, and just to have the chance to, extend your game or extend your season one game further. And it was even cooler, I thought, as a senior. Every single game in the tournament, especially, you're going out there knowing this could, potentially be your last game. So it's a pretty special, emotional time for a lot of us. And it was even cooler just to get to kind of end on top and kind of holding the national championship trophy.
Yeah, and in those regional games, you played two WCHA teams in Bemidji State and Lake Superior State. What did your team do to match the physicality? Because I was listening to a former WCHA player on another podcast, and he was saying, like, I think the WCHA is a little more physical than Hockey East, and I kind of disagree with that because if you watch Hockey East games, it can get pretty physical sometimes. So what did you do to try to match that physicality and show those teams that Hockey East teams can also be physical as well?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I obviously think Hockey East is pretty physical, especially like UMass. Maybe not some of the more skilled teams, I guess, in a sense. But I don't know if we did anything specifically different. Obviously, they're really strong teams. They have good seasons, but um, that's kind of just the brand of hockey we play, where we make it hard on the other team to break it out of their own zone, make it hard for them to get through the neutral zone. And I thought we did a great job of that in both of those games. You could kind of see it in the score as a result. And we obviously, in some ways, I thought uh, we got pretty lucky. We got good scoring. Like we kind of just capitalized on a lot of the chances that we had. And I don't know if we were necessarily a lot better than any of the teams that we played, but just the chances we got, we were able to put in the back of the net. And I think that was kind of a characteristic of the whole playoff run itself.
Yeah, I know the guys were interviewing Coach Carville after the win against Lake Superior State, and he was saying, like, I don't think we played a good game at all, even though you guys won like 4-1. So it just shows the mentality that your team has that you're always trying to get better, which I think shows why your team won the national championship.
For sure. Yeah, we've never, even when we win, we're always trying to figure out ways to improve. And there's a lot of times where you can win and you kind of get lucky in a sense, or you're not, you don't play as well as you can. And in the tournament, you need to play that, one of your best games every game. And Coach Carvel is always good at letting us know where we need to be better.
And the offensive play, though, was very much successful in those regional games. It was clicking very well. Just elaborate more on the goals that were scored in those two games, especially the one that you got against Lake Superior State.
Yeah. I thought we just create offense pretty well. I thought in the offensive zone, being able to establish a cycle and a forecheck is huge, especially in those games where they're really physical and they're heavy. And I think we did a great job. Coach Carvel's taught us a lot about trying to get pucks to the back post. It's where you see a lot of goals scored in the playoffs, especially when you're playing that kind of tougher brand of hockey and teams are good defensively. I thought we did a good job of that. And obviously our power play was strong as well. And I ended up having two against like set up in the net front, and pucks found me back post and I was able to put them in. So Yeah, I mean, I thought we did a good job, especially the whole playoff run, just being able to kind of create offense when it is a tougher kind of grind battle of a game.
And listening to the broadcast of that game, I heard the ice was pretty bad. How'd you deal with that? In Bridgeport, I think they said it was. It was bad.
Yeah, yeah, it was awful. I remember we got there in practice and it was like, oh my God, this can't be the ice in the tournament. It got better as we went. But I think, obviously both teams are out there playing on the same ice, right? I think it hurt a team like Wisconsin who's more skilled and kind of quicker. Um, but for us, in some ways, it helps a little bit, right? It almost turns it more into kind of a sloppy systems game. And it was frustrating at times, but at the end of the day, right, both teams are out there, so you can't really complain too much.
Now, I have to ask you about what were your thoughts on Coach Carvel's run on the ice? He was doing an interview with Bucci and Barry Melrose, and then he wanted to celebrate with the team, so he did a full sprint back to the huddle. What was your thoughts on all that? Because I saw it posted on different social media accounts.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny. We all kind of got caught off guard with it, where it's like, we're ready to go, and then all of a sudden, Carvey's sprinting out there. But I thought it was pretty funny.
Now, before the Frozen Four, your team lost a few of your key players due to contract tracing. How did your team try to make up for the absence of those players, especially guys like Kasevich, who was a really key offensive player for your team throughout the entire season?
Yeah, it was obviously disappointing, and to kind of get to that stage and have a COVID scare and lose guys was really disappointing. But for a lot of us, we were kind of excited a little bit too. People I think assumed that we wouldn't be able to play at the level we did without those guys, and we're pretty fortunate this year to have a deep team and to have guys that were able to step into big roles and make an impact. I thought Ant Del Gaizo, was awesome against Duluth. He's a major part of why we won. Obviously, he scored that goal, but even outside of that, um, that was a huge characteristic of our team, was being able to kind of take those punches and just deal with it and kind of handle it and keep moving forward. And for a lot of us, it was really motivating to get another game just so those guys could get back in the lineup. For Carson to be able to come to Pittsburgh, they weren't there that first game, but they came the next day. For File, for Henry. So I thought it was kind of just another, piece of adversity that we had to kind of overcome as a team.
And just talk about Matt Murray's performance in that semifinal game, because obviously he was kind of just thrown in there for the start. No one expected him to get that start, and he played out of his mind. It was one of my favorite performances in the Frozen Four overall.
Yeah, he's a great goalie. I've played with him for 4 years. He's unbelievable, and for him to kind of get to step up like that and just play a great game, he's a huge part of why we even got to the national championship. And it says a ton when a goalie doesn't get to play for however long he did, to be able to step in and make an impact. It's a testament to how hard he works in practice and his mentality. It's not easy to be a backup goalie, especially when the talent that he has. I think he could be a starter at a ton of other schools, but he kind of got backed up a little bit behind File. But yeah, obviously he played a huge game. He's a great goalie, and he's going to go back next year. He's going to have a ton of opportunity. I think he'll be a great goaltender for the whole season next year.
Now, what was the atmosphere like at the Frozen Four? Because obviously it was 25% capacity, and when you were there in Buffalo, the atmosphere was incredible, especially with all the UMass fans there. How was it? Was it a little bit different than Buffalo? And just talk about being a player in that atmosphere.
It was cool. It was really cool. I think, going from no fans to kind of 25%, it felt like,
Mhm.
the rink was kind of buzzing. Um, but just to get there, like even, all the decorations for the Frozen Four, everything that's going around, it's always special. You can get that kind of feeling, where something special is going on. And Pittsburgh's a really cool city. They obviously did a great job organizing it. It was spectacular to be a part of, and that Pittsburgh rink's awesome. Like, it's a ton of fun to play in. We obviously got to be in the visitors locker room, which is pretty cool, and just the whole thing was awesome to experience.
Now, in that overtime, you guys played fantastic. What was the mindset, or what was the message in the locker room heading into that overtime game? Because it felt like you guys had pretty much possession of the puck the entire overtime, and you just guys were just creating offensive chance after offensive chance, and then finally Garrett Waite got that OT winner to seal the deal.
hmm Yeah, I thought that whole game, like the first two periods, Duluth is a really good team. They're very hard to play against, and it almost felt similar to the national championship experience, where we were working hard, we just couldn't establish a lot, and we had chances to score and didn't. And obviously they did. And the second intermission was kind of like, man, like it felt like we were kind of in that championship game 2 years ago all over again. But we knew that as a team, they weren't playing all four lines like we were. They were kind of relying pretty heavily on their top end guys. And when Ant scored that goal in the third period, it kind of just felt like it was going to come. And I think they got a little bit, fatigued, obviously. And at the same time, I thought we almost had a new sense of purpose in a way where we could really felt like we were able to do it. And it kind of felt like it was coming. I think that was pretty motivating. And then once we established the puck in the offensive zone, it kind of just came from there. And I thought we generated a ton of chances. And you just had that feeling like it was only a matter of time before a puck was going to go in.
Yeah, just talk about what emotions were, I guess, was going through your head when Garrett Wake got that goal, because it was incredible because Trevino went around the net and basically found a hole for Wake to pop it in, which I thought was cool. It was just a great play.
Yeah, we worked on that a lot. So it was great to see it kind of all that hard work pay off in a way. But I think for a lot of us, it was excitement, but it was also relief in a sense where, we were able to kind of get through Duluth, who, obviously ended our season in the championship 2 years ago. So it was a pretty special moment for a lot of us that dealt with that to kind of get back to the stage and be able to kind of get revenge, I think, in a sense, and just to prove that, we could win against that team, I thought was great.
Now, I have to ask you this because I feel like UMass always plays the second game whenever there's like two games going on in the same stadium. What do you guys do during the first game? Like, do you watch it at all, or are you just like focusing on how to prepare for the game that you're going to play?
Yeah, I paid attention to it a little bit. I remember I always nap and I get up a little bit earlier so I can watch. So the game was on, so I remember watching a little bit of it. But yeah, it's tough. Like we, I think the game started at 9, right? So it's like that's something you never play all year, and then for it to go into overtime, I remember coming back to the hotel, like reading post game meal at 10, like 1 o'clock,
Hmm.
and get to bed at 2:30. So I think it is a big advantage for sure going into that. Obviously the game's 2 days from when you play, you get that day off, which is awesome. But yeah, it's a huge adjustment. It's something that I don't think a ton of people realize is a big advantage. I think for the teams that play that earlier game.
Now, you played St. Cloud State in the finals. What challenges does that team bring offensively and defensively?
Yeah, they're a great team. They obviously to get to that stage, you have to be solid and you have to get through some good teams. They beat Boston College. We had a ton of respect for the way they played, and I think in some ways too, when you get that 2 day, you win the semifinal and then you play in St. Cloud. There's not as much time to kind of prepare. It's more making sure that you can play your own game. But we went into that game knowing that they're a really solid team and that we needed to kind of play our best game to get through them.
Now, I have to ask you about Philip Laganov's goal he scored in that championship game. It was unbelievable. What was the bench's reaction to that goal? Because that was awesome.
Yeah, that was nasty. Phil's a guy, like he's such a good hockey player and he has that like just he's very, very skilled. He he runs a summer camp or he has before back home with Pavel Datsuk. So we always joke that he took that one out of Pavel's playbook a little bit. But we were all really excited for him. He's struggled a bit, through his 4 years at UMass. He's had some injuries and stuff he's had to deal with. So for him to kind of get that goal on such a huge stage and get the attention and kind of the accolades that he deserves, I was really happy for him.
Now, when you guys got Gasevich and Lindbergh back, I guess, how did that like elevate your team even more in that championship game?
Yeah, they're both such a huge part of our team. They're a ton of fun. Like I remember, I think it was Friday. We were having just like a team lunch or whatever. We were in a huge conference room and they just walked in and immediately it was just like we were all cheering and clapping and pretty fired up. So they bring a ton of energy to our team. Carson specifically is just a loud, big personality that was a huge part of our team this year. So I thought, getting them back was awesome. It changed the identity of our team a little bit, and I think it just pushed us in the right direction.
Now, you were saying before how like 5 minutes left in that championship game, Coach Carvel huddled you guys up and kind of it reminds you just to enjoy the moment with the team. After that, the whole commotion happened, winning the national championship. Just take me through what was going through your head, lifting that trophy and just that whole celebration that your team had after being national champions, because you went through so much just to get to that moment, building this program to where it is today, and then also helping the freshmen elevate their game even more.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I still get goosebumps or even a little bit emotional thinking about it. It was such a cool moment. Like just obviously no one sees all the hard work and kind of the hardships that go into getting to that stage. But through the 4 years, especially the bonds that I've shared with all the seniors and the coaches and the things we've gone through, it was a storybook ending to an awesome kind of 4 years and an awesome program. And a lot of people have worked really hard and come through this program that didn't get to share that moment. So, in many ways, it was for all the guys that have come to UMass and pushed the program in a better place, but their time kind of ended before. I look at guys like Kirk Keats, Jack Suter, Jake McLaughlin, all the guys that have played and all the guys that have moved on to the NHL and higher levels that impacted our program in a lot of ways. That win was kind of shared with all of them, and a testament to what we were able to build and achieve in a program at UMass.
Have you had the chance to speak with any of those guys after the win? Like, did they call you or something like that?
Yeah, I talked to a lot of them. We FaceTime Kale in the locker room. We FaceTime Mitchell Chafee. We talked to a bunch of the guys. And then, I talked to a handful of them just when I was driving to Cleveland, kind of passing the time. And everyone's obviously really excited, right? It's a huge moment. They put a ton of work into the program. So to get to kind of share that and see the national championship trophy and all that stuff was pretty cool for everybody.
Now, do you know when you get your rings, their championship rings? Like, when's that going to happen? Or do you have any idea when that's going to
I
happen?
don't know. I don't know. I heard they're pretty sweet. I haven't seen any photos, but I'm assuming just sometime next fall. Next fall we'll be able to get them.
Yeah, I'm super excited just for the banner raising. Hopefully, fans are back at Mullins. It's a fully packed rink, and then just that whole ceremony is going to be super fun to watch. Just because it's what happened this past year with no fans. I think that's going to be a super cool way to bring fans back. And obviously, the championship rings, I assume, would
Yeah,
happen
it's gonna be
on
awesome.
that
I'm pretty,
opening
yeah,
night.
yeah. It'll be pretty cool for sure. I'm not sure scheduling wise if I'll even be able to be there. Hopefully I will, but obviously we'll figure that out kind of at a later date.
Now, Zach Jones signed his NHL contract with the Rangers. Have you had a chance to see him play in the NHL, and just what's your thoughts on him as a player and as a teammate, both on and off the ice?
Yeah, great guy. Obviously super skilled, and for him to be able to have the success he had as kind of a smaller defenseman, it's a testament to how shifty and just deceptive he is on the ice. He's a great player, and I think he slid in pretty naturally on that power play with the Rangers. So he was a ton of fun to watch, and obviously he's in Latvia right now playing in the World Championships for the U.S. team. So super happy for him. He's a great teammate. Um, we were pretty close throughout the year. Yeah, he's just a great player. He works really hard, and I think he's gonna have a great pro career.
Now, like I mentioned in the beginning of this podcast, it's the 1 year anniversary when I sent out my message to you to come on. You're our first ever guest to respond and come on the podcast. So I want to say thank you for that. But what's your thoughts on the podcast overall since we last had you on, since it's been so long?
Yeah, it's been cool. I obviously follow it on Instagram, so you've had some pretty cool guests on, some people that I know, and then it's been cool to see the different, whether it's women's college hockey or men's college hockey, just the different guests that have been able to come on and kind of share their story. It's something that I didn't really have the experience to share my story or the opportunity really before kind of chatting with you and chatting with some other podcasts. But I think it's a really cool platform just for college hockey fans to kind of get to see the behind the scenes and hear the stories of all the players.
Is there any guests that we should have on in the future that you know? Because everyone was telling me we have to get Oliver Chow on the podcast. Everyone says he's like the funniest guy in UMass, and he's obviously a great goal scorer as well.
Yeah, Chelsea would be a good pick for sure. Carson too. Gisevich would be a good one. Yeah, there's a lot of guys. Like I honestly think you could pick anyone on our team this year, and give you some good stories and some insight into kind of the UMass program. And I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, anyone playing college hockey from Ottawa could pick,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, Chow and Carson would be my two for sure.
And obviously Ferraro, I don't know if you follow his YouTube channel, but he's such a funny guy. Is he just like that with UMass as well with John Leonard?
Yeah, he's his podcast. He's the exact same way in person, on camera. He's like so genuine all the time. I think that's one of the things that makes him such a great guy. Is he's just the same person no matter what. And I think that's obviously the San Jose guys love him there, and I think that's a huge part of it. He hasn't changed at all. He's just himself, and what makes them a ton of fun to be around.
And he was saying on one of his YouTube videos how he was rooming with you and a few other the freshmen at Johnson Hall, I believe, and he was just telling the story of how they used to move John Leonard's mattress from different rooms and watch like Step Brothers. Can you elaborate more on that story? Because I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah. Yeah. My freshman year. So right now, everyone, the freshman and sophomore lives in the North Apartments. So you kind of get set up in like a suite where there's 4 guys in a room, there's a kitchen, there's a couch set up. But my freshman year, it wasn't the case. We had like there was 13 freshmen, 4 or 5 of them got to live in the North Apartments, and the rest of us were in like one of the oldest buildings on UMass. And we were right across the street from the North Apartments. It was Johnson Hall in Northeast, and we were obviously sharing a room. You didn't get a room to yourself. There's no air conditioning, public or like communal bathroom. So it was like the authentic kind of college experience. So for a lot of us, we did some pranks. We did a lot of pranks to kind of like cope with it in some ways, or just to make sure we were having fun in a certain sense, because it was difficult. And the people that lived there were juniors and seniors that chose to live in that building. So they weren't necessarily the most social types, as opposed to living in like a traditional college dorm. We didn't make a ton of friends. There weren't many outgoing people. But at the end of the year, like we were kind of glad in a way we got to go through that. I think it brought a ton of us kind of closer together. And then the next year, we obviously appreciated those North Apartments way more, kind of having privacy in your own room, just getting to hang out with everybody kind of as a team is a ton of fun. But yeah, those Johnson Hall stories, those are, they feel so long ago. Like I remember Mario doing a chemistry project in the communal bathroom. He's like molding clay into some canoe or something. Just, yeah, tons of things happened in that room. And over the holidays, we'd be the only people there because all the students would go home. So we were just like roaming around, kind of just causing havoc, doing like bowling toilet paper rolls down the hall, kind of just being morons.
Mhm. Yeah, no. And what's the biggest thing you're going to miss from UMass besides just the hockey aspect? Just like obviously the food there is incredible. My sister went to UMass. I've had the chance to have some of that dining hall food. That's just incredible. Anything else you're going to miss from UMass from your time there?
Yeah, just kind of the bond with the guys. I think obviously you're still part of a team or a hockey team next year, but you spend so much time together as a team that you're so close and you kind of know each other and have a deeper relationship. And I think that bond kind of within the team is something I'll miss. Just yeah, like we spent so much time together. We were so close and put so much work into kind of UMass and the program that I think that's a bond you rarely get. And it's something that I'll miss. And the North Apartments were awesome because we had rooms of 4 guys and we had one hallway where it was four or 5 rooms. So just being able to walk across the hall and kind of chat with everybody was pretty special. That was a ton of fun to be a part of.
Yeah, something I like about UMass is like obviously the campus is pretty cool, but even outside the campus, there's so much to do there because I did some exploring, just walking around just the other towns around campus. That's really cool. Have you had the chance to do that before? I know you're busy with hockey.
Yeah, yeah, no, I loved UMass. I explored a ton. Just kind of driving around, meeting people, and kind of experiencing the landscape a little bit. Obviously, I love to fish. I fished a ton, and there's really good water and streams and rivers kind of around that area. So it was awesome to get out, and it didn't take very far outside of UMass. Like a 20-minute drive, just to kind of. It almost felt like you fully escaped and you were somewhere else. So it was a ton of fun. Just to have that opportunity to kind of get away when things were intense and kind of experience the peace of the water a little bit.
Yeah, there's this town near UMass called Hadley. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or been there before, but there's this breakfast place that I discovered, and the syrup that they make there is incredible. I don't know. You should try it sometime if you ever have the chance.
What's it called?
I don't know what it's called, but it's like some random breakfast place in Hadley. It's so good. The syrup there was like they make it like in the restaurant too, which I thought was really cool. I had a great time when I went there.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if it's the Stables. We always went to the Stables. That's a great breakfast spot. We went there for 4 years. It's always good food, and it's usually the Sunday kind of hungover adventure to get food all together, which is fun.
That's awesome. Well, is there anything you want to talk about? The floor is all yours. Anything that I forgot to mention about the season or just your time at UMass? Feel free to talk about it here. I know you were on another podcast talking about your suit party where you brought a suit uh, to a party that had no one was wearing suits. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, not my proudest moment, but it's always fun, right? If you're gonna prank guys, you have to be able to take it too. So that's always a funny story to share. But no, I think that pretty much covers it. I don't know if I have any other stories. I have to think of them. But yeah, no.
And who has the best hair on the team? Because you guys have some great flows. Obviously, Oliver Chow is a good flow, but Josh Lapina, oh my gosh, that hair was awesome. Every time he was flying down the ice, it was just flopping from his helmet. It was pretty cool. In your opinion, who has the best hair on the team?
Yeah, it's got to be Chow. Yeah, I think he's just got like he's got wiser, more mature hair too. It's always feathered. Lopes is he's young. He's got a little growing up to do. There's a little bit of immaturity, I think, in that hair. He's got to grow up a little bit. But yeah, no, I got to go with my boy Oliver Chow.
Apparently, he cut it recently. Is that true?
That is true. I can't confirm. He didn't want to cut it till our season was over, but it's sad that hair couldn't survive a little longer.
Well, he'll grow it back, though. I know that. Well, do you have any shout outs? Do you have for any of your family members, teammates, anyone in particular? Feel free to shout them out now.
Yeah. Shout out obviously to my family. I know my mom will probably listen to this. But yeah, no, just shout out to all the UMass boys. I don't know if he's listening, but Chris Pettingill, he's out there somewhere, probably in Shelburne Falls. But yeah, no, I think that pretty much wraps it up.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast, Jake. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day and coming on. Congrats on the national championship win. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm wearing my UMass hockey shirt. But thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure, and best of luck with the podcast.